Hi, everyone. My name is Danny Lachmandas. I am your host for the Talent Tap podcast and owner of Quintalo. We help staffing and recruiting agencies generate consistent, qualified client opportunities through an AI-powered growth engine that automates outbound qualification and sales enablement. Drop growth in the comments if you want to learn how we can help scale your business. And today with us, we have Hank Levine of Be Additive. How are you doing today, Hank?
I'm doing fantastic, Danny. It's nice to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Nice to have you on. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is a suburb of Washington, D.C.
Okay. First off, I just wanted to ask you your background, a little bit of how you started the company and what you do day to day these days.
Okay, well, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I've reinvented myself probably 4 times, but the last 20 years I've worked in recruiting, particularly working with large recruiting teams based offshore in India and Philippines. Prior to starting Be Additive, I was the founder and CEO of a company that grew to about 950 recruiters. Many of those people have come over with me the last 2 years into Be Additive, and we have a traditional staffing firm. We also have what we call a knowledge process outsourcing company, where we build teams of workers in India and the Philippines typically for companies in high labor cost markets. So that could be a software development team, a marketing team, or a team of recruiters. And we also have a software branch that is building an AI talent marketplace. So that's probably the most fun thing we're doing. And we're building a product that solves the problems that AI startups are having hiring very senior AI talent.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there a reason you named your company Be Additive?
Yeah, there is. So I have very strong views about values. One of the things that I've learned not to like so much are value statements on websites because I find that 90% of the times they're total BS. Everyone talks about integrity and things like that. And my experience is for most companies, when they're in a situation where they can either do the right thing but make less money or do the wrong thing and make more money, they almost always go for the money. And yet you see, they write all about integrity on their website. So I didn't want to do that. I believe in stakeholder capitalism, which is, I have a big belief in capitalism, but I think it should benefit all stakeholders. And I also love entrepreneurship. And I see entrepreneurship as a way of expanding upon your values and putting it into an organization that can really scale your values beyond just yourself. So I think you can do that with your family, but the best way to do it is with a company. And Be Additive is all about leaving the world a little bit better than you came into it. We have a statement of purpose, not a mission statement, and it talks about how to add value by being kind, by being courageous, and also being impactful, which you can do by scaling a big company.
Yes, I actually love that answer. I grew up with a lot of the same values. Grew up in church and a Christian home and Christian school, so I was raised with a lot of the same values, and I can resonate with everything that you said. Be Additive, you said it is building an AI talent marketplace. In any two-sided marketplace, one side is always harder to scale. Is your biggest challenge currently acquiring high-quality offshore talent? Or is it acquiring the funded startups that need those AI teams?
Well, the honest answer to that is we are building the product now. We have a pre-beta product. We're working with just a few select companies. Our beta release is actually scheduled for February 8th. So we haven't scaled this product to a volume yet where I could really accurately answer that question. I will say the following. We have about 30 people in our company. Almost every one of them has worked with me for over 10 years, so I know them very well. They're the best of the best. They have very large networks, and so on as far as attracting companies, we have a lot of companies that we know. I'm in a lot of networking groups that give me a lot of exposure to AI startups. I'm a limited partner in a venture capital fund, so I do have a lot of exposure to AI startups. On the candidate side, we have some spectacular recruiters with 10 to 15 years of experience who have huge networks. And our recruiters are based in India and the Philippines, and that's mostly where we're finding our talent from. So I'm not overly concerned about either of those. I think a lot of what we're doing is building a great product where there's huge need for it. In some ways, the product will market itself once we have some very positive reactions from the first startups we work with.
Yeah, I got you. So you're basically in the beginning phases of it, so you're not able to quite give me the detail on what is exactly happening. But your model emphasizes high quality at a low cost by leveraging offshore contractors. How do you ensure that quality promise is met consistently? And what is the biggest operational headache in automating the qualification and vetting process for both talent and the client opportunities?
Yeah, so that's a terrific question, and the vetting is very, very important, not just for skills, but for integrity and so forth. When you're working with candidates offshore, you have to make sure they're not working multiple jobs and so forth. So we have a very white glove, highly service-oriented marketplace that we're building. Vet everybody who comes into it. We vet the client. So if the client's not a right fit for what we're doing, we will not take their business. And we also vet all the candidates. The candidates go through two stages of vetting. One is more a quicker vetting where we really just vet them for skills, but we do that with skills recruiters. That gets them into the marketplace, but we don't submit any candidates to our clients until we have an intake call with the client. We understand their needs and we make sure that the candidate is interested, available for the job, but also has the right values and work ethics to work for the company. So it's really a double vetting process.
Yeah. Are you using mainly humans, or is the AI marketplace supposed to replace some of that human interaction in the beginning?
We have a lot of AI built in, but so the first vetting stage is done largely with AI, but the second vetting stage is 100% done by experienced recruiters.
Sense. Makes sense. When when you advise funded startups on building their AI teams, they need to move fast. What is the typical sales cycle for Be Additive, and what are the key bottlenecks you've identified in getting a startup from initial contact to signing a high value flexible contract?
Yeah, so the problem the AI startups have is there's just a huge imbalance between demand and supply for the very senior AI positions. So I'm not talking about someone right out of school. I'm talking about the AI engineers, the ML engineers, data scientists, and senior people. And these companies have raised almost unthinkable amounts of money. They have the VCs breathing down their neck to build, get their product out because we know in AI, if you're slow to market, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
And yet, they can't get these people to join their company. First, they're incredibly expensive. So most of the positions we're hiring are commanding salaries from in the U.S. From three to $500,000. And even when the startup is willing to pay that, they usually have a preference to work for big tech companies. So they want to go to OpenAI, they want to go to Google, they want to go to Microsoft, and it's just really hard to bring them on board. Meanwhile, when you look in countries like India and Philippines and Latin America, there's a lot of very highly skilled AI talent that would love to work for a US or European company, but they're working locally. For them, when they work for a Silicon Valley company, they typically get a 30-40% pay bump. But what they really want to do is build their profile because it is much more marketable to have worked for a Silicon Valley company than it is to have worked for a local company in India. So the talent's very eager to join. We typically have very long-term contracts, a year or longer. So for the US or European company who's hiring the talent, it's really like a full-time employee, but they get the employee at a third to half the cost that it would take to hire someone locally. Usually, In our pre-beta state, we've been able to get people up and running in 2 to 3 weeks.
That's actually very quick. It seems like outsourcing to the Philippines, India, and Latin America has actually become very popular in the last 5 to 7 years. Honestly, before the pandemic, or maybe even a little before that, wasn't really hearing of people doing that, but now it seems to be just an everyday thing. You created the strategies for these companies, for those high growth companies. What was the effective non-traditional lead generation method you implemented to secure a high value B2B client and drive that kind of valuation for your 6 companies?
Well, okay, so we're getting clients several ways. One, I belong to a whole bunch of entrepreneurial networks. As I told you, I'm a limited partner in a venture capital fund. So there's a lot of connections that I have and other people have in our company. We have very experienced people in our company. They have a lot of connections. We attend conferences, generally AI conferences, where there's a lot of people who have a desperate need to hire people. So we meet people at conferences, and we do traditional marketing, mostly, yeah, out of our team in the Philippines, and we use tools like Apollo AI and so forth to help us.
Okay. Yeah, you have actually done very well. Some big accomplishments in the staffing and recruiting industry. One of the top leaders for sure. You're at the cutting edge of AI talent space. Do you see the traditional staffing and recruiting agencies as competitors, or maybe potential partners, or as a market that is ripe for disruption by autonomous AI systems?
Well, I don't see traditional staffing firms as they're not, we are competing with them. And the way we're doing that is we're not trying to be everything to everybody. So we're very, very focused on our mission of working with funded AI startups. We have other divisions in our company, if you have other types of work hiring needs, we can have other parts of our company handle it. But the AI talent marketplace is very focused. The candidates that are vetted in the marketplace are all very senior AI talent people, and the clients that we're working with in the marketplace are all funded startups working in AI.
Okay, yeah. Another one. If you could automate the entire front end client acquisition process from identifying a company with a need to qualifying the opportunity to sales enablement and guarantee a consistent flow of qualified meetings for a recruiting agency, what kind of premium would that service command in the marketplace?
I think that's very difficult to do for higher level jobs. I do think it's very possible to do in lower level jobs, more mass hiring. So if you're the type of company that's doing sales lead generation for someone who's working in light industrial and the typical people they're hiring, the qualifications very minimal, like asking questions like, can you lift 60 pounds? I think that can almost be completely automated. When you're getting into more sophisticated positions in companies doing more sophisticated things, it's very hard to totally automate that. The other thing I would say with sales automation is that there are so many sales automation tools out there, and I probably get 30 sales emails a day. No exaggeration. They mostly go into my junk folder. They're all generated by AI. It's obvious they're generated by AI. They don't know
It's
anything.
very obvious to see these days.
Yeah, and so, I do look at them super fast, delete, 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 and I think with all these tools coming out, it's really lacking the human touch. It's very similar to what you see in the recruiting. So in recruiting, you see all the candidates use AI to spray their resume everywhere, and all the talent acquisition groups use AI to spray outreach to all the candidates everywhere. So the result is that the companies get more resumes than any human can look at. They use AI tools to filter through them, and the candidates are spraying their resume to more places, all these places I don't even know about. And you kind of have AI agents negotiating with AI agents. They create a short list. When it comes to doing sales, again, I think that there's certain more of the less sophisticated type of recruiting companies that you can highly automate the process. But if you're getting into more sophisticated companies like startups that are building AI products, you really have to talk to them. And so our sales process is, at least for AI talent marketplace, is very high touch. As I mentioned, we do an onboarding call and we won't even accept a client into the marketplace if they're not the right fit.
Okay, yeah, it seems definitely very high touch. What I've found and what someone else said on the podcast is AI is making us much quicker, but the human touch will make us win. So I fully believe that AI is best used with an added human touch. AI has just made some steps much quicker. Some things that may take a couple days, you can now do in a couple hours. And I think for right now, that is the biggest impact of AI that I'm seeing personally in my businesses and what other people are seeing.
Yeah. I very much believe in targeted account marketing, and AI is a huge benefit in that. So if you really understand your ICP and you target the, specific accounts, you can use AI to not only find out all about the company and to create good questions to ask, but you can also use AI to find out all about the hiring managers and buyers that you need to contact. So that research really used to take a week or two. You can probably do it in an hour or two and create a very customized outreach. I don't like traditional outreach on email and LinkedIn because, again, they're getting spam. But if you really customize your message and you create little personalized videos, you can do them right on yourself. They don't have to be professionally produced, but just show that you're talking directly to a person and directly addressing his or her needs in a video. People will watch that, and
Yes.
they know it's customized, and they're impressed.
Yeah. It's about showing people that you care and you have learned a little bit about them will make the biggest difference. Uh sorry. Be additive. I'm curious beyond the name, how does the philosophy of being additive, meaning providing value that complements and enhances existing systems apply to your current client acquisition strategy?
Well, again, it's all about building value and leaving the world a better place. And I think in our client acquisition strategy, we always do what's right for the client, including turning down their business if we're not the right firm for them. And I feel that's what business should be doing. That's how you should run an honest business. And really, it's in everyone's interest because if you try to sell to companies where you're not a good fit, you're not likely to be successful, especially in the long run. And it's just much more productive to put your energy into clients who are going to be happy and will give you references and scale. And I should have mentioned references. References is probably the number one way we get business. And you get into, the startup community where everyone's connected and all the VCs are connected. And if you really do a good job for someone, that's how the product tends to sell itself.
Good. That really does make sense. One of my last questions, you said that you had to, at the beginning of the call, you said you had to reinvent yourself multiple times. How did you know that you had hit the right thing? You were kind of done reinventing yourself. How did you know the moment that this is what you wanted, this is what was happening?
Well, the truthful answer to that is I'm probably running out of time. So, uh, if I were 25, I might reinvent myself again. But I've, when I went to college, I studied mechanical engineering, but mostly in nuclear engineering. My first job out of college, I worked with a bunch of PhD physicists doing fusion energy research. I wanted to start with a career in fusion, but when I worked on it, I actually realized that I didn't believe it was viable. It would never happen in my lifetime. And I went back to business school and I got involved at a very early stage in home automation companies, which I was also very fascinated by. But we were very early to the market and we got a lot of press. We were on TV a lot because we did for the time, some amazing things, but it was very difficult to build a business. I had a little more success when I started working with venture capital-backed software companies, especially in telecom-backed software. And it was a more established market, and there was a lot more demand for what we were doing. And I saw a lot of people who were working with family members in India. This is around the year 2000 or so. Cost arbitrage in those days was unbelievable by like 12 to 15 to 1. It's not nearly as steep today, but it's still considerable. And a lot of these companies were being very successful despite the fact that they really weren't very good companies. They were just competing on price. And so I knew I know how to run a company better than most of the other companies I was helping set up their companies. And so I got hired by a company in Bangalore and got to India a bunch of times. I knew how to raise money. And so once I kind of got my feet on the ground in India and figured out the country a little bit, I just started my last company. And as I said, we grew it to a pretty big company.
It's big, definitely big accomplishments. That is all the time we have for today. Thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you. Definitely gave me some insights on the business and the industry. Thank you also everyone for tuning in. I'll be having these podcasts hopefully once a week, and that is all we have for today. Thank you.
Okay. And Danny, thank you very much. And if people want to get in touch with me, they can do it at hank.levine@beadditive.com.
There you go. You heard it there. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Danny.